Hi guys, my name's Holly and I'm doing my creature feature on bone worms, and they're also called bone-eating worms or zombie worms, and their scientific name is Ocedox. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, and they're these little red guys popping out here on the screen. Um, these guys can grow up to about 2 inches in length, and they are found in the Pacific or Atlantic most likely. I think recently they just found new species in the Atlantic Ocean, but nonetheless, there aren't that many species actually discovered yet. But the ones found out in the Pacific were found in Monterey Bay, actually, in a dead whale carcass, I believe of a gray whale, and they live deep, deep in the ocean, as you can imagine. A carcass of a whale falls pretty deep, so these guys are down there waiting for that. And they basically live where they eat. So they live in the bone of a whale and they eat the bone. And the worms contain bacteria that help them digest the fats and oils of the whale bone itself. So that's pretty cool. So that leads me to my question being, how do the Ocedox worms consume dead whale bone? I wanted to know this because bone is a pretty hard bite to chew, and these guys are pretty small. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting, hence also their name, zombie worm. You have to kind of be fascinated by their diet. So with a research article that I was looking at, they mentioned that in the root of the worm, where the worm meets the surface of the bone, they have these epidermal cells that are full of encoded transporters like amino acids, bicarbonate, basically all these ingredients that help metabolize the bone and feed it into the worm as nutrients, basically like their food. And then these genes are developed at the juvenile stage of the worm. So basically, juvenile stage is right when the worm latches to the surface of the bone. That's when they start eating. And how do we know this? So basically, with the research paper I was looking at, they took a sample of the bone of a dead whale that had the worms living in it already, and they took it back to investigate and then also dissect the worms. And as I dissected the worms, I'll just read what they had put here. They said, we investigated the expression patterns of genes of interest that were considered related to bone digestion and nutrient uptake. The results revealed novel aspects of the molecular mechanisms of the metabolic process of Ocedox worms. So here also is a diagram that was also in the research paper. This dark shaded part here, sorry, my picture's blocking the label, but this dark part here is the whalebone itself, and this white bump here is where the root of the worm is grooved into the bone. So it's basically just sitting on top of the bone here. It's kind of a sideways picture, but basically you just see the peptide nutrition going up through these transporters. Sorry, you can't see my mouse moving, but going up through these transporters of the root epidermis and going up into the rest of the worm as nutrients. And then here's a little video that I found that I thought was kind of cool. It's these worms in action eating a whale. It's only about 30 seconds, and it also mentions a few other cool facts about these guys. That I didn't have time really to mention, but they're kind of cool, so I'll play that for you. Kind of cool. But anyways, so why is the zombie worm's feeding style significant? These guys are so small and living at the bottom of the ocean, and they eat dead things. Why are they important? So I tried to research this question, but I couldn't really find much. So I kind of just like put together my own ideas of like from what I learned and like theorized why they could be significant. One is that there are multiple symbiotic relationships going on. With that video, you saw the male and female relationship was kind of symbiotic when it came to their habitat. And then also these worms are feeding off of another animal, but the animal is dead, aka the whale. So the worms are just kind of benefiting here food wise. And I kind of just theorized that there's not a lot of animals. Like when a dead whale hits the ocean floor, there's probably a lot of animals that want to eat the flesh and everything but the bone off the whale. So I think it's kind of cool that these guys are the ones breaking down the bone, clearing, kind of like cleaning up the ocean floor maybe, and that might help benthic organisms in a certain way. I'm not sure. But also the science behind bacteria that can be deteriorated, that can deteriorate bone, sorry, can be useful for humans to understand. I'm sure we might already have an understanding of what deteriorates bones, but it could just be helpful to see other foreign organisms doing that in their own way with their own recipe of ingredients that do it. Also, the way that worms use the bone as nutrition is also kind of cool for us to look more into and learn. We all know that bones are nutritious, aka why we drink bone broth and whatnot. But again, just seeing another organism do it in their own foreign way could be something educational to us. And also, like I said, where they live is where they eat. So knowing where they live can help us in the future when looking for new species. We know where to look for because we know their patterns and habitat and diet. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, I don't know if you guys caught it, but they mentioned how the males are very small and they live on the female, which is actually